there goes the little robot. So welcome everyone to Mary Magdalene's channeling on her day after the feast day. And she's good for any day as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't need to be a Catholic celebration, but it's a nice reminder of her service and Jeshua's service. So without any hesitation, I'll read the message, and I'm going to have to go slowly because I tend to slur up words and I can't help it. Sometimes it's just the way, the brain and the speech coordinate or don't coordinate. So I'll try to go slowly, but this is now being recorded. So you'll have it on recording and I'll post it in the Circle of the Rose. So just prepare yourself through meditation and prayer and surround yourself in the light of the ascended masters whom I've already called in, most particularly Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and Jesus. And our soul group is divinely connected to all of these figures in one way or another, and your own master guides, Master Saint Germain and other masters are present, I sense. Mary Magdalene is going to speak now. And if you want to close your eyes and mute, you can, but you don't need to. And Mary is saying in her message, it's been quite some time since, dear sister, since I have spoken with you directly. And you usually speak and rely on Mother Mary and Princess Diana, but it is I today who come forth to you to offer you my rose of comfort for your healing. And when she's speaking to me, take it that she's speaking to you for whatever healing you are needing right now. And maybe Phyllis, you could just mute because it's not you, but I'm not seeing that I'm recording. Or my face is showing. We're getting a picture of other people, but that's okay. I mean, you're all part of the group. Zoom is difficult. I sometimes don't know what it's thinking. So back to the comfort for your healing. You have been through many challenges of late, but you will find over time that you will gradually heal in your solar plexus chakra and be able to manifest healing in a more permanent way. We praise the idea that you're always in service to others and think of them instead of your own needs. We allow the coming of the divine feminine energies, call upon them now to enter your chakra system. And we ask you to read the passage on the 7 demons or the 7 chakras as recorded in your book, Mary Magdalene Speaks, which I will be doing later. There are many factors and factions influencing your society at this time that Mother Mary and I described as setting women back a bit. We don't think this change will be permanent, but will take some time to undo damage that's been done regarding women's rights over their own bodies. We are not speaking of proponents of abortion, which we are not in favor of, but we are speaking of rights of women in general and women to protect themselves from unwanted pregnancy or early pregnancy. We also feel that accessing the ancient healing methods of the Essenes would be a very interesting topic to explore, especially the Essene community, which, as you know, harnesses the energies of the divine and the sun. And the sun is the solar masculine energy combined with the earth energies of the waters and the wells and the caves of Mother Earth. As you well know, the goddess was worshipped in a primordial way back before the sun was worshipped, and far back before the masculine patriarchy took over the other world's religions. We would like to see a return for all of you to nature and the understanding, the proper understanding of the divine feminine Mother Earth as she relates, as well as Divine Father. Mother Mary is a prime example of the Divine Mother, but I was also a mother, and this has been hidden from history, bearing the fruit of my womb with Jeshua as we lived some 2,000 years ago as my child Sarah. Sarah has stepped forward in many books and new revelations about her role as healer and psychic in that time era. She learned from me, but she also learned from the other disciples, such as Martha and the male disciples. There was always more to the story. And you will be uncovering the new revelations of Sarah. And I encourage you to read the passage about Sarah and the Black Madonna because it is most fascinating. And the role that she played, as well as your meeting on the feast day. We are ever pleased with your progress of all of you and your understanding how the divine feminine works in tandem with the divine masculine as what in supporting Jeshua's mission, but also understand, beloveds, that it is also a co-creation. And it wasn't just Jeshua's mission, it was also my mission to be the master teacher of the inner way mastery. The mission of the divine matrix, we might call it, the male and the female, the sun and the moon. Where did I leave off here? The sun and the moon of the feminine and masculine as equals. And in that day, it was not well understood, certainly women in particular, but it is much more understood in today's language. And I salute the new power of all women who are now made aware of me through the many books that are out with my holy essence of the rose. For all women who call on me, the divine feminine energies will ground within. For the divine feminine is for a woman. It is not necessarily for a woman to take on masculine qualities, but merely to lead as women and to express herself as mother, healer, and teacher. We need more divine energy in the world. Amen to that. And believe the strong tendency as seen now in trying to redominate the women in America and around the world has been a bit of a setback. We ask all women and men listening to seek to support, to empower the divine goddess energy everywhere present. We ask that all women and men listening to seek, remember to think of me when the moon is full and out, and ask upon me for any help wherever you need it, be it a healing, manifestation of a particular energy, or a new project. For I am behind the creative, divine, feminine matrix energy. I am Mary Magdalene, and I bless you today with my rose. I look forward to working with you once again and uncovering more about my child Sarah as she reveals herself. I am Mary Magdalene of the Circle of the Rose. And I remembered I forgot to get my rose that bloomed today. Actually, it was yesterday, but I've got to go show you the rose in the garden, and you can unmute. Then I'm going to read a couple passages and then we'll do our Reiki share. I'm getting better at my rose gardening. Can everyone see this? Isn't that phenomenal? And that's a hybrid tea, and I don't know exactly. I think it's called the Hope Rose or the Chicago Hope Rose, but the Diana rose is very similar to this. And I have roses blooming all over the place. And I planted a rose in memory of my dear mother who passed 2 years ago around this time. And that rose bloomed yesterday on Magdalene's feast day too. So we are surrounded in the rose energy. And sometimes when we have the presence of either Mother Mary or Mary Magdalene around us, you will be able to smell roses, even though they're not there. So they bring the rose energy, and we'll call on this rose energy for our healing purposes later today. So that's just a nice thing. And I do make rose oil blessed by Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene if you would like to order some. And now I'm going to turn to the passage in the book on the Grail artifacts speak. And in this excerpt from Mary Magdalene Speaks, I'll hold it up. I think you've all got the book, but in case those are watching, don't have the book. It gets really interesting in this part of the book because I visited and learned how to time travel over, or spirit travel, astral travel over to the other side from Bob Murray after he had passed. And he had been in touch with Joseph of Arimathea and had a past life as an Essene. And so Bob had assembled all the artifacts in his house studio on the other side, where he does his readings and works on books. And Joseph of Arimathea is the keeper of the Grail artifacts, known for the famous Grail cup that Joseph is always associated with legend. But all of these artifacts, all I had to do was touch into them in my imagination, and they would begin to speak. So I thought this was particularly exciting because Mary referenced the Black Madonna, who is secretly, her identity is actually Sarah or Sarah. And she tells her story, her history. And I've put people under hypnosis to reveal the story of Sarah. And I'm in touch with a person that remembers having been Sarah and also having been a female disciple and then reincarnating right away into another body. And so Sarah had an interesting life because her father was Jesus, her mother was Mary Magdalene, and her aunt was Martha. So I've come together with these people once more. Their soul aspects are here on the earth plane. And so Sarah has a lot of interesting revelations. And if you haven't read it in a while, or if you haven't yet read this part of the book, I'm going to read it for you. And it's really riveting because it reveals so much about the repression of the Catholic Church in particular. Although they honor Mary today, they dishonored her for about 2,000 years, making an harlot and everything else, which she never was. So the Black Madonna speaks. I am seeing Sarah, and I see that the Black Madonna resembles a darker girl who could be from Egypt. She was rumored to be the slave girl of Mary Magdalene, but that was only a decoy for Sarah, who was born in Egypt. The Black Madonna speaks. Thousands of pilgrims have touched me and regained their health, though through the power of believing in the power of healing from Mary Magdalene and Jeshua. I am the most sacred of relics, and I come to you today to speak of the story of Sarah. Sarah. In this region of France, there were many who knew of my real identity. The priest, whom you know, dug up these finds. He was well aware that there was an only child between Jesus and Sarah, and it was myself. He was paid a ransom note from the Catholic Church for recovering this material. He actually found my bones, the shovel, and other precious relics, including part of the true cross and other fragments of gospels that belonged to Mary Magdalene were found there. What was revealed was so upsetting to the Catholic Church hierarchy that they decided to make this priest very wealthy and let him live out his days in luxury. This would have been at the Church of Saint Marie de la Mar, and you can look it up on Google. Then the church confiscated the relics, the gospels, and other items on Mary Magdalene. They are now sealed up somewhere deep inside the Vatican Library, available only to the trusted few. Marcia, this is very interesting. Do go on. It's as interesting as the Da Vinci Code. Please inform us. Sarah, you know me or my soul aspect as Erica, but yet she does not contain the full record of the accounting of what really happened in my life. So I will continue telling the story. When we arrived, I was a toddler, and my mother and I stayed with you, Martha, in a cave for a while. She's speaking of France. Mother was very busy with her new way of mastery. There were many followers back then, but it was all held in secret. And Mother and I stayed in the region of southern France and Languedoc for 3 to 10 years. We heard of the Druids welcoming us because Uncle Joseph had been associated with the area of Cornwall known as the Summerland. So now she's describing her journeys with Joseph on the ship. Arimathea would have taken the early disciples, the family of Jesus, in other words, to England. So she continues, we heard of the Druids welcoming us because Uncle Joseph had been associated with the area of Cornwall known as the Summerland. That is the area where Uncle Joseph and Jeshua had landed at one time. My father Jeshua came to visit me both in dreams and in the flesh. He was always very lighthearted and made me laugh. My mother Mary is a little bit more serious and she does a lot of meditation. But you like to take me out to teach me the ways of nature in the woods, by the streams and the wells. Next, we went to England to visit the Summerland and the tin mines of Wales. Uncle Joseph was ready for us to board ship. He came to get us all with the disciple Philip and some others. The name of another, Zacchaeus, comes up, and he too was with us. He was a little bit difficult. I was often seasick. We had provisions with us. Joseph was manning the ship, and he sailed all around Great Britain. A number of followers came later. Joseph actually visited with us 3 sacred sites. On the tip of Cornwall, you notice that we landed on an island later called St. Michael's Mount. Joseph hired a caravan and some wagons, and we got up to know the local people called the Druids. They took us up the Magdalene Way, an ancient Druid path known to you today as the area of Glastonbury or Avalon. There, my mother initiated the Druids into the Holy Divine Feminine, and she also shared me by passing me around from person to person around an outside fire. I think you will remember this well. Yes, I do recall some of this. Can you tell me with any degree of accuracy how long we were in Glastonbury and when did we return to France? Sarah, I'm feeling that my father Jeshua did visit in Glastonbury, and that was when we were with my mother there. For 3 days, she went into the silence where she was able to see and converse with him. During that time, I was able to see him as well. We had a feast there with the Druids, and Jeshua had come. We had walked around looking for a safe place where we could stay. Since our Uncle Joseph was very, very wealthy, it wasn't hard to find people who were willing to help. I remember that Uncle Joseph planted some thorns from Jesus's crown, and was said that they would bloom each year. We had several small huts, and I remember that it was very cold. I had come up from Egypt, you remember, and this place was cold. You didn't like it either, Martha. We eventually settled in the land of Glastonbury or Avalon. Some of the disciples, the Essenes, as we know them, settled with us. Great-grandmother Anna loved it there, and she was related to Uncle Joseph. She was a wonderful lady. Grandmother Mary Anna, the mother of Jesus or Jeshua, also stayed for a long time. At some point, my mother, Mary Magdalene, and I decided to migrate back to the region of Languedoc. We went because we liked the weather better, and Mary felt that she could do her writing in the cave more easily. She also felt she had a mission to educate people in France, and France would one day become the home of her people. There were Jews in France who welcomed us, mainly Essenes, and of course, page always likes to stick. Had a small community in Languedoc as Joseph lands, these were all Joseph's lands, were scattered throughout the area. Martha decided to stay in Glastonbury and study with the Druids. She was always studying and loved books and writing. She had little ones in her care as she grew older there, and Mother Mary came frequently to visit, as did Jeshua. But the community in Glastonbury was a mixture of traditions, both Druid and the New Way. They called it the Way, of course. Frequently, we would voyage from our home in Languedoc to Glastonbury and back and forth. So then we get into the piece of the ship and how that ties into the story of Joseph's many travels in his ships all around the world, protecting the early disciples from harm, because he had a lot of power and wealth, and the ancient Romans respected him. Yet he had a secret network of spies and, people that were psychics that could tune in to various dangers so that he could easily command a ship to go get somebody and take them out of trouble. So it's an exciting adventure. Now, I was going to read, she asked me also to reveal the mysteries of her 7 chakras. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but before we do, does anyone have any comments about or questions about the, you can unmute if you would like to. We'll do the chakras and then we'll stop recording after the chakras and then we'll go into the Reiki session.
Have a comment. I believe Master Yogananda.
Yes.
Recalled a lifetime of his when he was visiting Stonehenge. He said he had been a druid.
Oh, that
So
makes sense. That's lovely. And, he later, through another channel or another person that read Akashic records, said that Master Yogananda was actually William the Conqueror, the first king of England. Not that really the first king of England, but, the one that took over and came from France. And interestingly enough, that line of French people, I'm distantly related to, but they are also known as being part of the French bloodline, which exists to this day, according to what Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and Jesus have said about the ancient bloodline that exists in England and France. So that is interesting. And of course, the Druids were into practices of magic and great knowledge. And I guess it was an all oral tradition. More or less, it was practiced in the ancient sacred groves and the nature spirits and things like that. And Merlin represents the Druid lineage in the court of Arthur as well. So then where they settled in Glastonbury later became Avalon, which became the court, of course, of King Arthur. So all of these lineages are mythic in proportion.
And Saint Germain was Merlin. And
Oh, yes, that's right. Thank you.
Saint Germain was Saint Joseph.
That's correct too.
Jesus.
Yeah, and that area has always been very sacred. And I remember being at Glastonbury, and I did some channeling there at the Sacred Well. And I know that you had some interesting pictures, and I included your picture in my book of Glastonbury, but I have a PowerPoint too, which I can share with people if we have time, or perhaps I'll be able to post it somehow. And it's the pictures of the well and everything. But Mary's well and Joseph's well is at Glastonbury. And Glastonbury was, of course, known as Avalon, where King Arthur and Queen Guinevere were laid to rest. Their graves are there. And then there was the great Glastonbury Abbey, which King Henry destroyed. It was such a shameful act. But the place was a big pilgrimage site because of the supposed Holy Grail chalice, which I get into in the book about the Grail chalice. Mary says there isn't really much of it left, and it's just the artifact is kind of more or less in spirit, but it did fall down one of the wells. And Mary talks in this message about the sacredness of waters and wells, and even, of course, baptisms were probably practiced in these wells. But I've seen some of the sacred wells in Glastonbury, and I remember not only the Vesica Pisces and the general well of Mary Magdalene is strikingly beautiful, but there are other natural wells called the White Well, which is off to the side road of the park, which is dedicated to Mary Magdalene. And there were candles lit all over the place. The water was glistening. Even at night, it looked as if people had gone in there to bathe or to do cleansing or, rebaptism. I don't know what they were. There was nobody in there. And they asked that we not take pictures, but my friend Laura took a wonderful picture of it. And it's phenomenal. The energy of the Magdalene is all throughout Glastonbury, and that's why it's such a popular spot. But anyway, all of these lineages are totally connected to people that have served and continue to serve our race as masters. So there's a lot of mastery energy in Glastonbury. And then Catherine and I have talked about the rose line of Mother Mary, and then the ley line of Saint Michael, going all the way from around, I guess, the Stonehenge area through the other Wiltshire areas, all the way down to the tip of Cornwall. And I can tell you, when I was in England, I could feel that sacred energy the whole time. It was ecstatic. And I was like, where are we? I know we're on the right path, but there's this little highway they call the carriageway, the double carriageway. And it's in Cornwall, and it goes from about Wiltshire, Middle England, all the way down to the tip. And you can really feel the energies. It's lovely. So I don't know about you, but I am feeling the energy of Mary Magdalene. Who else is feeling her energy today? I'm feeling her sacred energy. It's wonderful. And using her words empowers the spirit to come through more. So I guess I will read the chakra message, and then I'll stop recording, and then we can work with the energies of the Magdalene for a brief Reiki for all of the call. And let me see. Oh, this is the picture of Catherine. She shared this with me, and I thought this was more powerful than mine. I don't know if you can see this, but there's orbs all over the place. And Catherine has the knack for capturing all these glorious orbs and the energy. So I don't know if you can see that, but it's in the book. So let me find the 7th chakra. And you may have heard this before, but if you haven't heard it, it's kind of a chakra meditation on her chakras and how they were cleansed. But also, as we go into the Reiki energies, you can think about the chakras and how powerful they really are to cleanse and heal you. And so everything that she's saying is directed at you today. So take it personally and try to integrate what she's saying and follow along with the chakra system. Yes, it is I, Mary Magdalene, known as Mary of Bethany. I was the appointed and chief disciple of the master of the Inner Way School. In my Gospels, you will find fragments of what was left of my teachings. And in the book you hold in your hands now was written by a fine Frenchman, Leloup Jean. Everything was deliberately kept secret by the church fathers. Even my gospel was denigrated, but there is much truth yet to be revealed. There are just a few of my channels in the United States. You, my sister, are a worthy channel, having cleared your energy systems of disease and impurities. At the time of the Essenes, we worked on the maturity, and we worked on the chakra system as it was recorded. When it was said that Jeshua drove out the 7 demons, it was a reference to the 7 chakras. It was not that I had literally 7 demons, but I had accumulated karmic debris, as we all do in our lifetime. We will bring in the karmic debris from previous lifetimes, plus any harm that comes to us from our parents or our community, rather unintentionally or intentionally. So we start with the 1st chakra at the base of the spine, the lowest chakra representing red. And we would cleanse that chakra and go up to the 2nd. Now she's describing her experience with Jesus coming in, but you can imagine her and Jesus working on your chakras as we read her words. The sacral chakra, the 2nd chakra, is right above the pubic bone and was cleansed by Jeshua when he forgave me. This then became a vehicle for the Holy Child. I was the mother of his child, and the bloodline does exist to this day. In that chakra, I held his seed, a new seed of life, and the holy bloodline to continue on some 2,000 years later. Many women felt attracted and drawn to the love that was Jeshua, as he was quite handsome. The early church also kept these things, except for certain disciples like Philip, yourself, and Lazarus. The third chakra, or the solar plexus, is near the belly button, and we move up into the solar plexus energy, the area where we manifest our being in the surety of the light of the sun. We cleared the chakra of all cravings that are not good for us. We cleared the chakra of any self-depreciating thoughts, of which I, of course, had. The heart chakra, the fourth chakra. It is true that I was repentant when I met Jeshua on the road after seeing him travel back from India. That it is true that I was ashamed of my chakras. So he healed me with the lightning quick fire, and further on, ignited my heart flame once more for him. Once again, my great love for his blue eyes and his white teeth and his open arms embraced me in that moment. Once again, I allowed myself to love him after I had been shuttered up in my home for years, dreaming of him, but never really knowing that he would come back. All the while, I was blaming the goddess Isis for my cursed state. Then, as Jeshua worked on me, he gradually opened my throat chakra. It had remained silent for years, and in those days, I was never a speaker. I was not confident, but I learned confidence through him. Eventually, I became quite a good speaker and teacher. The third eye chakra. He sent healing, and you can touch lightly in your chakras or just imagine them. He sent healing through my throat and up through my face, and then we kissed. It was glorious after so many years of being away from Jeshua. We were separated when Jeshua went to India, and during the time he was with his other wife, Miriam of Tiana. He was very much in love when he left, but he realized when he came home that it was I who had possessed the inner knowledge and gifts that were to blossom. He brought it forth many times when he kissed my eyes in hopes that they would awaken me from the nightmares I had been plagued with for so many years. And now, of course, he came to my third eye, which he awakened in a ceremony which was private between us. The crown chakra. The crown was the head of the Kundalini serpent, and was, as we engaged in relations, we would try to reach all the way to heaven, as if we were imagining the tips of the trees touching the sky, and it was the earth and the sky united in that blissful moment. And there we were, one with Father, Mother, God, as he used to say. Joshua had become an initiate in Egypt and in India, and he had familiarized himself with the other great traditions of the day. This raising of the Kundalini was learned in India, where he studied in the sacred Tantra. For some time, I was unfamiliar with such practices, and I felt ashamed. Joshua, in his devotion and purity, reminded me that all the chakras can be re-energized in one moment. It happened through the pure love power that we chose to emulate, so that our thoughts, our minds, and our bodies would come together in perfect alignment. Then we are in the purity of love. We manifest our desires so much more quickly. This is my inner way teaching to all of you today, to work with your chakras and heal yourself as you use the sacred energies of Kundalini for your own higher consciousness and your own enjoyment while you are still in the body. For healers, you are also lovers, and I thank you for having heard my story of the divine feminine as an embodied disciple and wife of the Master Jeshua. I am Mary Magdalene, keeper of the Grail mysteries. Any comments, thoughts, experiences?
I guess we can add, that was beautiful, Marcia. Thank you. Thank you for the roles, showing us your roles also. I just want to add, we have to remember that she was the twin flame of Jesus. And
Thank
they
you.
read that he could not have, I'm sorry.
No,
That-
we are hearing you.
Okay, that he could not have accomplished his mission without her. So she was so instrumental.
Absolutely. And what she was saying earlier in her channel was that it was all part of the divine matrix of masculine and feminine being complementary to one another. But thank you for that mention of the twin flame energy. Of course, the twin flame. You don't always get to be with your twin flame, and normally we're not. But this was a special exception, I think, so that they could work together and influence the world. It's just that it's only really being acknowledged now in our world, her importance to his mission, but to her own mission, because she had a dual mission with him, which was the inner way mastery of meditation and healing and teaching. And she was
Also, as now she's master or Chohan of the sixth ray, which was before Jesus, like the seven rays, Saint Germain.
That's right. Jesus stepped out of that sixth
So
ray.
she's the only female Chohan or master of one of the rays that influenced the entire planet. And also I read recently that she is one of the members of the karmic board. So there are 8 members. 5 of them are female let's call them deities or semi-deities if you want.
Yeah.
She's one of them.
Well, that's great knowledge. I appreciate your sharing that, because I know that the ascended masters change their roles around quite a few times, even as we continue to evolve as humanity. So that's very interesting that she took Joshua's place on the 6th ray of light. And there's different masters that are constantly moving on the chessboard, so to speak, of moving up in vibration, as we all will move up in vibration. So that's a very interesting point. Thank you for that, Catherine. So I'm going to end the recording, but not our session, and we'll do some private work with healing now. And let me see if I can get that to stop recording.